During 1863, the road agent gang was targeting any and all prospectors that had found gold in Montana, but then things took a turn for the worse when a man trusted with the safety of this town ends up being responsible for hundreds of dead prospectors. Before we get into what the leader of this vicious gang said about where his share of the loot was, we have to do what we always do and learn the entirety of why this treasure is lost and who this man was underneath the facade he put on for those around him. But first, let's learn about the sheriff that couldn't seem to catch up to this gang, no matter how hard he tried. Henry was a man who had taken the lives of 3 others, but the first time he did it, he was adamant that it was about protecting the wife of the man that he killed. He said that she was being abused by the marshal, and he managed to get his case dismissed since it was in self-defense. He would later take the life of another man who was also hurting his wife, and again, he got away with it because he was defending the woman. A lot of people took his side and believed him to be a good man for doing what he did. He later caught the attention of a woman named Electra, and the man that was interested in her was said to have attacked Henry first, but this time, there was plenty of witnesses to come to bat for Henry. They all said that Henry acted in self-defense, so it's not surprising that despite his past criminal record, that the little town of Bannock decided to make him their sheriff. And they were in desperate need of a good man like Henry who was willing to do what needed to be done to protect the miners and the prospectors that were being killed by the road agent gang. The road agent gang was a massive gang of outlaws that were targeting the men that were going out and mining gold or prospecting. They were such a huge gang that it said they had around 100 members, and some reports state that they had around 150, all raiding and attacking the prospectors and gold miners. It had gotten so bad that there was over 100 men that had all been shot down in cold blood for the gold they had gone out and worked hard for. It was a really disturbing time for these people that were mining at Alder Gulch. Alder Gulch was a place in Montana that wasn't far from Bannock, and it was accidentally stumbled upon by a man named Bill Fairweather. He and his company were avoiding a group of crows, the Native Americans, not the birds. He and his friends retreated into this ravine where they had found gold, and not much else is known about Bill, except he was probably one of the victims of the road agent gang, because it was after this discovery that the attacks started to happen. The gang would target miners that were transporting their gold to a major railhead, and while they were doing this and stealing these men's livelihoods, it's believed that the road agent gang had killed over 120 miners. They also took a modern-day equivalent of $10 million worth of gold from these miners. This is primarily due to the road agent gang being so huge, and that was their strength, that they were just a massive gang. But the other problem is that the more members you have, the more moving parts there are, and the more likely it is that someone's going to rat out the entire group, which is essentially what was about to happen. So Henry, being the man that he was, expected to have gone out and served some Western justice to the outlaws, but throughout his entire time searching for these men, he just couldn't nab a single one of them. He tried as hard as he could, but every single one of the road agent outlaws kept evading his capture. Eventually, the town got fed up with Henry doing such a terrible job and formed a good old-fashioned vigilante posse. These citizens of Bannock went out in search of the gang members, and it wasn't long before they managed to capture 3 of the 100 members. They threatened them all to be hung. Hanged? Hung? Okay, either one is acceptable. They threatened to hang them all if they didn't give up their ringleader, who was in charge of all of this. And one man said, "No, I wouldn't give him up," and he died. Then, the other 2 readily gave up their boss and were imprisoned. After finding out the news, they make their way to Henry's home, and they tell him, "All right, the jig's up. You're coming with us." Henry was the gang's secret leader. He was helping them get away with all of their robberies, and being the leader of the gang and also the sheriff of another town, he was giving them inside information so that they could better target what gold was going where and when to attack them. So the citizens took Henry to the middle of town, and before he was about to start swinging, he started singing. He was begging with the townspeople that if they would just let him go and let him live, that he would take all of them to his secret stash of gold and that they could have it all. He described the place as being just 2 hours horse ride away. Now, I'm not sure if they didn't care or if they just didn't believe him, but they hung Henry anyway. After all, he did have the blood of over 100 men on his hands. So this is the part where I tell you where it is, but first, like always, don't break the law, don't do anything that you're not supposed to, don't do anything that's going to put your life at risk. If this man's hideout really was just 2 hours ride away by horse, how far would that be from Bannock? It would be anywhere between 7 to 10 miles. And this is also dependent on what the terrain looks like. If the path to his hideout was flat and easy, then it would be on the farther end of things. But if it was rocky and strenuous, then it would be on the shorter end of things. Also, I have seen in some comment sections that there was somebody stating that their grandma who lived in Bannock their entire life had been told the entire story from their great-grandmother, and that the treasure was shortly taken after Henry Plummer's death. But it's one of those things that people say, but until something comes up and out of these legends and stories, all we are left with is this big mystery. And where mystery lies, adventure awaits. If you like what I do and want to help support me, then the best way to do that is by joining the community on Patreon. I post when I can, and it goes a long way in supporting the channel. If you're not into that, then just check out this video YouTube seems to think you'll love, and I'll see you there.